Early voting is now underway in almost every state. You could say every day for the next 13 days, if there's voting going on, it is election day. So get to the polls. Take nothing for granted. The margins, they are razor thin. The red wave never materialized in 2022. There is not one person, let me be very clear about this, in this country today with any degree of certainty that can tell you who is going to win this election. And if you care about your country and the future direction of this country, my humble advice, especially if you live in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, is to assume that your vote will determine the outcome of this election. I hope everybody will look at it as that important. Now, for the second straight day, no rallies for Kamala Harris. Instead, she was in the Washington swamp using her vice presidential podium, shocking, to smear Donald Trump. And how Kamala's once self-proclaimed joyful campaign, they have now reverted back to the same tired old tactics that we always see from Democrats in election years, and it's almost like a permanent cycle, and that is smear, slander, besmirchment, lying, and have supporters comparing Donald Trump to Hitler and to Stalin and to Mussolini. And, of course, he's racist. Today, Harris herself used a years-old, corroborated, bogus accusation from a former disgruntled chief of staff to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. Take a look.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is.
In May of 2018, that same person was praising Donald Trump on NPR. Unfortunately, Kamala gets 0 points for creativity. Take a look at your screen. Let's have a little history lesson, a Hannity history lesson. In 2008, Democrats, they compared John McCain to Hitler. 4 years later, Democratic strategist David Axelrod, he works at Fake News CNN, he compared Mitt Romney to Hitler. Nikki Haley was compared to Hitler's girlfriend, Eva Braun. And we could go on and on and on. It's a time-honored tradition of Democrats. Comparing Republicans to Nazis is a tradition in the Democratic Party. When you have nothing else to run on, this is what you are left with. In fact, just last week, The Atlantic actually compared Trump to Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini, the unholy trinity of evil dictators, right? But remember, Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He started no new wars. He signed a historic peace deal in the Middle East. He lowered your taxes. He cut regulation. He signed criminal justice reform. He secured our border. Not exactly the record of an evil, warmongering lover of Adolf Hitler and a madman. And needless to say, the melodramatic comparisons to Hitler, they are falling flat, and they're all predictable. And it's not going to stop there. So buckle up. It'll be an emotional roller coaster ride. The Democrats, their allies in the state-run media mob, they will be trying every day the tactic of slander, smear. We just found out after 10 years Donald Trump did this and that, and just buckle up, because you know it's coming. Kamala Harris cannot run on her terrible record or her far-left radical and extreme beliefs. So, smearing Donald Trump and calling him names, and frankly, those that support him, calling them names, is pretty much the only tool left in their political toolbox. But per usual, Barack Obama is so perplexed, he's bewildered about how American politics have become so bitter. You know, he did once talk about bitter people that cling to their God, guns, Bibles, and religion, too. Take a look.
As frustrating as politics can be sometimes, and I know it can be frustrating. Look, I do not watch cable news. I really don't. There are times where I don't understand how we got so toxic and just so divided and so bitter, and I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it.
Really, Barack? let's do ourselves a favor. Let's take a little walk down memory lane. Maybe we can refresh your memory. Maybe somebody will show this to you, considering you don't watch cable news, although you mentioned me about 10 or 15 times when you were running for president. Take a look.
I'll put Mr. Burgess up against Sean Hannity. He'll tear him up.
If you accept the support of Klan sympathizers before you are president, you will accept their support after you're president.
You got their plan, which is let's have dirtier air, dirtier water, less people with health insurance. I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry. I need you to go out and talk to your friends and talk to your neighbors. I want you to talk to them whether they're independent or whether they are Republican. I want you to argue with them and get in their face.
Argue with them, get in their face. I have no idea how politics has gotten this way. Every 4 years, the same playbook from the Democrats. Well, now the smears are worse than ever. They're in a panic. At this point, they just hate Donald Trump, hate his supporters so much, it seems there is nothing that they won't do or they won't say. So buckle up. It's only going to get worse. Most Americans, they simply want the price of every item they buy in every store they go to come down. They want to pay less for a gallon of gasoline. They would like a secure border so people from 180 countries and countries with terror ties and known terrorists and murderers and rapists and violent criminals and gangs and cartels don't come into our country. They want less crime. They want a world of peace. But the best the Democratic Party, the best Kamala Harris can do is offer up more anti-Trump hysteria. That is their favorite go-to. That includes former comedian turned emotional Democratic sycophant Jimmy Kimmel. Take a look.
I'm an optimistic person. I'm not hysterical. I laugh when people say, oh, you've got Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
If you're a reasonable person, you should have Trump derangement syndrome. Right. And by the way, I think he has derangement syndrome about us, too. The fact of the matter is, this is a dangerous person.
No wonder nobody watches this show, and Greg Gutfeld keeps kicking his ass. Anyway, speaking of Trump derangement syndrome, poor Democratic strategist, our friend James Carville, he's getting more and more unglued every day. Now he's comparing this election to slitting throats in World War II. And I'm not making that up. Take a look.
I'm really not interested in being very fair about the whole thing. Okay, I really don't think we should have fought fair against the Germans and the Japanese. I think we should have snuck around them, and I think we should have, gone behind enemy lines and cut their throats, because that was what it was at stake. I think we're literally approaching the same place right now. And I'm not talking about everybody stop, don't faint. I'm not talking about actually slitting a political opponent's throats.
Don't fight fair, slit their throats, but I don't mean actually. James, you may need to check with your doctor. You may need to increase your daily dose of those gummies that you were talking about. Now, think about this. Democrats, the Biden administration, they have tried to put Trump in jail. They have tried to remove him from the ballot in multiple states. They have pressured big tech companies to censor conservatives online. They held a bogus primary that Biden won by millions of votes before the party elites decided to remove him from the top of the ticket and simply installed Kamala Harris in a last-minute political coup. Kamala herself has frequently called for the Senate filibuster to be eliminated so she can ram through her radical agenda like the radical Green New Deal with ease. Kamala is also apparently open to packing the U.S. Supreme Court, which would all but eliminate a co-equal branch of our government and corrupt our system of checks and balances. Both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz routinely attack the First Amendment, and they want to unilaterally destroy the Second Amendment. Maybe somebody could teach Tim how to load his own shotgun. Anyway, Democrats want Americans, they want you to believe that Trump is a threat to democracy. Buckle up. The next 13 days, the smear, the slander, the lying, the besmirchment, the attacks will get worse hour after hour after hour. Here's only one question that really matters. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? That very question is a big problem for Kamala Harris. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.